What's up guys, Connor here with Barnes 4-Wheel Drive. Today we're going to be talking about, do you need 1 tons? And as mad as it's going to make some of you, our answer is probably not. Alright guys, so let's get started in this conversation. And before we talk about anything, we want to make sure that you all know that this is totally subjective. This is not just cold hard facts. This is all opinionated stuff. This is just based off of what we have seen other people do, and things of that nature. And that's kind of how all this stuff in the off-road world is, but we just want to put that out there because we know that people are going to jump in the comments immediately and be like, well, you're wrong because of this. And it's like, yeah, we might be. This is just what we have seen work and what we have seen not work. This is all just subjective stuff. This isn't just cold hard facts here. This is kind of just what we believe. We typically go off of 3 major criteria. Number 1 is vehicle weight. Number 2 is what you actually want to do with this vehicle. And then number 3 is tire size. And there's a 4th as well. It's not always as important, but it's definitely still important. It's horsepower. Typically in the off-road world, at least with rock crawling, we're not always dealing with super high horsepower numbers. So that's why I say it's kind of like a 4th honorable mention. You know, the big 3 are those first 3. So we're gonna jump into this. This is just our opinion. Take it what you will. All right, so to start off this conversation, we need to establish the 3 kind of big dogs of the axle world, and that's the Dana 30, the Dana 44, and the Dana 60. That's going to be what we're talking about today. We're going to be talking about axles that you can find that came in OEM vehicles, otherwise known as junkyard axles. We're not talking about Curry, you know, high nines. We're not talking about, you know, any kind of rock jock, nothing. We're just talking about OEM specific axles. So to start off, we're going to talk about the Dana 30, which is what you see here in front of me. This is a JK Dana 30. It's been pretty beefed up with a lot of our parts. And I would just start, we're just going to go over the 3 things we talked about: vehicle weight, tire size, and what you want to do with it. So with a Dana 30, if you have a pretty small vehicle, so vehicle weight, you know, Jeep TJ, Jeep JK, XJ, things of that nature, pretty much vehicles that came with them, then a Dana 30 might not be horrible. Hear me out. I know they get a bad rap, but if you're gonna have a pretty lightweight vehicle and you're gonna run about a 33 to a 35 inch tire, and you just want to get into some mild to intermediate wheeling, a Dana 30 is probably perfect for you. I know you don't believe me because you read on JK forum that they're horrible and to never run one ever. What a lot of people, especially the JK crowd, no offense everybody, don't understand is that a JK Dana 44 and a JK Dana 30 are the exact same axle except for this part right here. The ring and pinion are different, and that is it. The tubes, the shafts, the C's, the ball joints, everything else is exactly the same from the Rubicon axle to this Dana 30 that you see here. As a blanket statement, 33, 35s, I've seen people run 37s on a JK Dana 44, or JK Dana 30, excuse me. I would not run them on a TJ Dana 30 because a JK Dana 30 is actually a little bit beefier than TJ Dana 30 and an XJ Dana 30. As a blanket statement, 33s to 35s, intermediate wheeling, lightweight rig, Dana 30 is probably perfect for you. If you're worried about strength, go with some chromoly shafts like 10 factory, nitro gear and axle, whatever. And then you can go with, you know, a truss kit, some C gussets that you see here to beef up those outer C's, and maybe it's like some control arm bracketry to, you know, thicken up the brackets on there. And you can do all of that, all the stuff from us. You can beef up your Dana 30 for just a few $100, like $250 or something, maybe not even that. And so for people who don't just have tons of money in the bank and they're really not looking to go crazy with wheeling, a Dana 30 could be a great option for you. All right, so let's talk about the second axle in this lineup, and that is the Dana 44. To start out, let me just go ahead and say there are a lot of Dana 44s out there. There are JK 44s, F-150 44s, Wagoneer, JLJT, TJ 44s. There are a ton of Dana 44s out there, so do your research on which one is going to fit your rig the best. But a lot of people think that Dana 44 is kind of a pointless axle because, like, you know, if you're going to axle swap it, why wouldn't you just go to tons? But again, tons don't always just, it's not just always the answer. I think that's just become pretty popular nowadays. So like, let's take me for example. I have a Comanche. obviously, and I knew I was never going to run bigger than a 37-inch tire. I have a really lightweight rig. It's about 3,500 pounds, and I like to do some pretty difficult wheeling, you know, but nothing crazy. It's just kind of, you know, Windrock or Harlan or Uwharrie or whatever around here. I'm not doing any kind of competition rock crawling or nothing, so I knew that I really didn't need 1 tons. So if I had found a set or something, I might have done it, but like in my case, I found a TJ Dana 44 and it pretty much bolted in to my rig. It had a locker, it had aftermarket chromoly shafts, and it bolted in, you know, like with some small modifications. So that's what I'm talking about. Sometimes a Dana 44 for your case might be more convenient. It's going to be lighter weight, and in my case it was way cheaper. I didn't have to buy any gears, I didn't have to buy any lockers, I didn't have to do any shafts, I didn't have to buy a swap kit, nothing like that. So that is when a Dana 44 makes sense. You know, I definitely understand that, you know, if you're swapping the axles and you're doing the work anyway, why not go 1 tons? It's definitely a good argument, and it's kind of hard to argue with, but it doesn't always make sense. You know, as a blanket statement, again, if you're running like a 37, 38-inch tire, you still got a pretty lightweight rig, you know, 4,000-ish pounds, maybe 5,000, like that's kind of pushing it. And you just kind of want to do some pretty difficult wheeling, but you know, nothing crazy. A Dana 44 might be perfect for you. A lot of people are putting JK44s in XJs and TJs nowadays. That's why we have a swap kit for that now. And people love that setup because it's lightweight, it's easy to install, and it's cheaper than 1 tons. Especially nowadays, Super Duty axles have skyrocketed in price, and they're really hard to find for a good deal. So a Dana 44 might make sense for you. And that's, again, this is just what we tell people when they call us to ask us our opinion. And that's kind of our opinion on the Dana 44. It's not a pointless axle, and it makes sense in some cases, and that's kind of what we've seen the case to be. So the third and final set of axles we're going to talk about are the Dana 60s. And again, just like the Dana 44, there are a lot of different Dana 60s. There's Kingpin Dana 60s, old school Dana 60s, then you move into the Super Duty era where you got 99 to 04 Dana 60s, a lot of those are Dana 50s, how do you know the difference, all that kind of stuff. And then you got the 05 and up Super Duty axles. Again, I'm not here to tell you which one is the best. I'm not an axle salesman, I'm an axle accessory salesman. So do your research on those. Go and look into these forums, look into the specs, all that stuff of what Dana 60 is going to be the best for you. But right now I can tell you that the Super Duty axles are 100% the most popular, and honestly it's kind of what we do recommend because you're going to have the most aftermarket support, you're going to have pretty much the strongest axle you can buy, and it's probably going to just be a lot easier for you because of all that aftermarket support. Like I said, Super Duty axles are really popular. They're super high in price, especially the 05 and up. I told you I wasn't going to give you many specs, but I kind of lied. The 99 to 04 axles are okay. You know, they're going to do the job. They're still really strong, but the 05 and up is really just what you want. Stub shafts are bigger, ring and pinion is bigger, tube sizes are bigger and thicker. You know, everything is just bigger. And, you know, if you're going to 1 ton swap it, you might as well do the best 1 ton swap you can do. Unless you got like a 99 to 04 set for a killer deal, then, you know, go for it. They're still going to be a great axle, but if you're still paying a lot of money, you might as well go 05 and up. And the thing that nobody really thinks about with these axles is a lot of people think they just go to a junkyard, buy a set of Super Duty axles, buy a swap kit, and bolt it into their rig. And that's not the case. And this is when, you know, keeping your Dana 30 or just going with a Dana 44 setup really starts to make sense, because, you know, you go to 1 tons and you got to buy a swap kit, you've got to buy brakes, you've got to buy shafts typically, you've got to buy lockers, a lot of times you change the gearing, you got to buy drive shafts, all of that stuff starts really racking up very quickly. And a lot of cases, like my case with the Dana 44, I didn't have to buy any of that stuff. But you do want 1 tons if you're going to be doing the big boy stuff. You know, if you're going to be running 40s or up, or really honestly 39s and up, and you're going to be doing some really, really hard rock crawling, or you have a super heavy rig like our buddy Chris at U-Joint Off-Road, he builds E-Series vans. He needs 1 tons because he's building super heavy vehicles. or you have high horsepower. You know, if you're going to be putting like an LS3 in something and it's going to be pushing a lot of power, you might as well go ahead and do 1 tons, because you don't want to be just shearing off ring and pinion teeth all the time. So yes, 1 tons are awesome. Do not think that this video is to make you think that 1 tons aren't awesome. They are. However, you really should consider if you need them. If you do need them, you do need them. You know, if you're running huge tires, big weight, big horsepower, you need 1 tons. Don't let anybody tell you different. But this video was to just kind of give you an idea if that's what you need. So Dana 60 crowd, that's what we kind of recommend. That's what you want to go with if you are running any of those 3 things. All right, guys, so that's it. Again, take all of this with a grain of salt. It's all opinionated. It's all subjective. Everybody's got a different opinion about this stuff. If you want any sort of accessory for any of these axles we talked about, whether it's a truss, just a set of C-gussets, some control arm brackets, or an entire swap kit, we've probably got what you need, whether it's a Dana 30, 44, or 60. We sell them for all of them. So yeah, take a look at our website once you've decided what you want to go with. Secondly, just don't take this video as a, you know, we hate 1 tons video. 1 tons are awesome. When I see a set of nice 1 tons underneath the rig, I'm like, that's rad. We just want to help you, you know, decide what you want based off of actual kind of facts and, you know, not just off of fads. In the off-road world, a lot of things just get really popular and everybody just thinks they need to do them. And that's not always the case. And we know how expensive this is because we are actual wheelers and we actually build rigs ourselves at home. And we know how expensive it can be. And we don't want you to spend all of your money if you don't really need to. So that's really just the big idea of this video. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I know you have a comment, so leave it in the description or the comment section below. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.